Hello everyone, my name is Khánh. I am a student of private tour guide in Hanoi. So today I am going to answer some of the most central questions about Hoàn Kiếm Lakes and Kinh Lê Thái Tổ and other things. So let us begin right away. Present the real history of the lake. So, hello everyone. Hoàn Kiếm Lake, also known as Salt Lake or Hồ Gươm, is a very historical and cultural part of Hanoi. The lake may look quite small today, but historically it was connected to a much larger water system. It was connected to Red River, and in fact, around 6 centuries ago, the maps showed that a large part of the area around Thăng Long Imperial Citadel was still surrounded by water. Hoàn Kiếm Lake was once connected to a branch of Red River, and as the river changed its course over time, the branch gradually separated, and the lake, hence the lake today. Also, the lake has two paths, Tả Vọng and Hữu Vọng. Hữu Vọng is what standing here behind me today, but that Tả Vọng, but Hữu Vọng was covered up by the Nguyễn Dynasty. So yeah, today the lake covers around 12 hectares. It is not particularly large compared with other lakes, but it is enormously important. The lake is associated with royal ceremony, military, religious legends, and then the development of modern Hanoi. In 2013, the Hoàn Kiếm Lake and Ngọc Sơn Temple was officially recognized as a special national museum of Vietnam. But perhaps the most interesting part about this lake is that it has not always been called Hoàn Kiếm. So Hoàn Kiếm meaning return sword, Hoàn meaning return, and Kiếm meaning sword. Over the centuries, it has several different names beside Salt Lake. So, I will tell what is the lake get the name Salt Lake and tell the Salt Lake legend. So here we go. The name Hoàn Kiếm. Oh, sorry, I'll go through this. The story starts in the 15th century when Vietnam was under the Ming occupation from China. A Vietnam leader named Lê Lợi organized the Lam Sơn uprising. According to the legend, Lê Lợi destined to bring Vietnam to independence, but he needed a powerful weapon to do so. One day, a fisherman named Lê Thận was fishing and pulled up a part of the sword from his nest. And later, Lê Lợi found another part of the sword. When the pieces were put together, they formed a perfect magical sword. So of course, the sword was named Thuận Thiên, meaning approximately follow heaven's will. With this sword, Lê Lợi and his army continued their resistance, and finally, in 1428, the Lam Sơn forces defeated the Ming army, and Vietnam became independent. Vietnam gained independence. Lê Lợi then get the throne of Emperor Lê Thái Tổ. So now comes the dramatic part. After the war is over and the country was finally at peace, Lê Lợi, in a boating tour on the lake, which was called Lục Thủy at the time, meaning green water. And suddenly, a huge golden turtle emerged from the water. The turtle approached the king's boat and asked him to return the sacred sword. He understands that the sword He understood that the sword has been led him to liberate the country, and now that the country has been liberated, the sword must be returned. So according to this legend, the turtle took the sword into its mouth and disappeared beneath the surface of the lake. And when they searched the lake later, both the turtle and the sword was no longer to be found. And from that moment, Lê Lợi renamed the lake into Hoàn Kiếm Lake, or the Lake of the Returned Sword. So, yeah, the sword represents the struggle for independence, while the turtle represents a secret force that has been supporting the king. So the story is an expression of a Vietnamese idea that the country must be liberated at all costs. Peace has to return, and the weapon of war could have been put away. So next, the question is to present the Chinese domination of Vietnam. To understand why Lê Lợi victory was important, we need to look further back. Vietnam experienced several periods of Chinese domination, historically referred to as Bắc Thuộc, or Northern domination. It is often summarized as approximately 1,000 years, but this 1,000 years is a sum total of their invasions in Vietnam, which was spread over 4 separate periods, right? The first Chinese domination starts in 111 BC when the Han Dynasty conquered Nam Viet, and lasts until 40 AD when the Chung sisters launched their famous uprising. The second Chinese domination began in AD 43 as the Han Dynasty reconquered the region following the Chung sister rebellion. It lasts until the 6th century when Li Bi successfully established independent state of Vạn Xuân in 544. Third Chinese domination began in 602 when the Sui dynasty reconquered the region. It continued to the Tang period and lasts until the gradual restoration of Vietnam independence in the 10th century. Finally, there was a fourth Chinese invasion by the Ming dynasty, the period we have just talked about. The Ming dynasty occupied Vietnam from 1407 to 1427. This last period is very important because it was the occupation that Lê Lợi Lam Sơn uprising eventually defeated. So when someone said that Vietnam experienced approximately 1,000 years of Chinese domination, they are referring to these major periods of foreign rules, 4 to be exact, rather than uninterrupted 1,000-year occupation. And that makes the sword legend much more meaningful. Lê Lợi was not simply defeating one army, but he was ending the last period of the very long history of foreign occupation. Alright, the next question. What were the crimes that the Chinese domination has committed in Vietnam? So during the period of Chinese domination, the imperial administration imposed political, economic, and cultural control over the Vietnam population. They collect taxes, require labor, control local administration, and extract agricultural products and natural resources. So the Ming occupation has done several crimes. They has done efforts to remove valuable books and cultural materials from history. They has imposed direct administration over Vietnam. Next, I'm going to present other names of the lake. Là Vọng, Lục Thủy, Tà Vọng, Thủy Quân. Where did it get those names and the meaning of those names? So this section is going to be quick. Lục Thủy mean green water. It was the earliest name, and it was this name because the lake has a green color. Next is Tà Vọng, which was can be approximately translated as left view. So because earlier it was part of a larger body of water divided into Tà Vọng and Hữu Vọng. Hữu Vọng was later buried by the French colony, so Tà Vọng is what remaining. The third name is Thủy Quân, meaning naval forces. During the Lechic period, a part of the lake was used for naval exercises. Next question is about Vietnamese culture and Salt Lake Turtle. We will begin generally. What is the significance of turtle in the culture of Vietnam? Okay, so the turtle is one of the 4 sacred creatures known as Vietnam Tứ Linh. The other 3 are dragon, unicorn, and phoenix. So the turtle traditionally represent longevity, wisdom, stability, and endurance. But in Vietnam, turtle has a more interesting role than that, and because the golden turtle appeared in the story of An Dương Vương more than 2,000 years ago, when it helped the king construct the Cổ Loa citadel. And century later, another sacred turtle appeared to Lê Lợi at Hoàn Kiếm. So you could say that in Vietnam mythology, the turtle has a habit of appearing whenever the story takes a crucial turn. So the turtle is also associated with education. At the Temple of Literature in Hanoi, stone turtles represent doctoral status. These turtles symbolize the idea that knowledge and academic achievements can survive long after the person who achieved them has died. Next question is present Salt Lake Turtle. So the Salt Lake Turtle is an animal of giant soft-shell turtle, scientifically identified as Rhasetus swinhonis, commonly called the Giang Thai giant soft-shell turtle. The last one died in 2016 and it was preserved very carefully. Each individual of this species can be more than 150 kilograms, and historical specimen found in Hoàn Kiếm Lake was even heavier than that. Unlike hard-shelled turtles, this turtle has a soft shell, a broad head, and a long neck. Okay, so next I'm going to present about its characteristic. What is the characteristic of the Salt Lake Turtle? So the Hoàn Kiếm Lake Turtle was a large freshwater soft-shelled turtle. It has a flexible and leathery shell instead of a rigid shell of a typical land turtle. It has a flexible leathery shell instead of a rigid shell. One of the most remarkable characteristics is their longevity. A famous turtle named Cụ Rùa was believed to be very old. although his age is still uncertain. Is there any giant turtle still currently living in the lake? No, there's no currently living turtle in Hoàn Kiếm Lake. The last one was dead on January 19, 2016. How many individuals has been found recently from 1960s to the present day? So several giant turtles was recorded from Hoàn Kiếm Lake during the 20th century, while in 2018 scientists knew of only 4 living individuals of the species worldwide. What happened to each individual? So I will present where they went, each of the turtles. The first one is Cụ Rùa. It died on January 19th, 2016. It is no longer alive, and of course the story remained inseparable from the lake. Another turtle died in 1967. It was preserved in Ngọc Temple. It was about 1.9 meters long and weighed around 200 kilo. There are reports of another female turtle recovered in 1968, with its skeleton eventually placed in Hanoi Museum collection. Yeah. When, where, and by who was the present Turtle Tower built? So the Turtle Tower, or Tháp Rùa, was a small island in the middle of Hoàn Kiếm Lake. The tower was constructed around 1884 to 1886 by Nguyễn Hậu Kim under the French colonial revolution. He was a wealthy local figure who had connection with both Vietnamese and French. The story behind the tower is more complicated. Sorry. Yeah, so the story starts by Nguyễn Ngọc Kim wanting a tower on a small island, reportedly to bury his father's remains. But the tower was completed, and over time its original private purpose became almost irrelevant, and the tower stood in the middle of the lake, where people associate the landscape with the secret turtle and Lê Lợi short legend. So it gradually became known as Tháp Rùa or Turtle Tower. Whether or not the burial of his father is there is unknown. So today its meaning is much larger than its original purpose. It had become one of the visual symbols of Hanoi. Next, what are the architectural features of Turtle Towers, and which details are Vietnam traditional architecture and which are French? The most interesting thing about Turtle Tower is that it does not neatly belong to one architecture style. The tower is a bridge structure with large rectangular plan, 4 legs and 5 arch openings. The top is a small pavilion-style roof. These details are Vietnamese in origin. The Vietnamese character can also be seen in the tower relationship with the landscape. It sits alone on a tiny islet in the middle of the lake, creating traditional Vietnam idea of architecture in harmony with water and the surroundings. Its upper roof and compact tower also formed traditional Vietnamese towers. But at the same time, the arched openings and masonry treatment has European influence, particularly by the French architecture. The picture describes something very interesting in Hanoi, because Hanoi was under huge Western influence at the time. The tower represents an attempt for balancing between Vietnamese traditional architecture and the French modern one. So, next question. Was there a Liberty statue that was placed on top of Turtle Tower? Yes, there is. So here's one strange story, right? In 1980, a small replica was placed on top of the Turtle Tower. But the statue was eventually removed and the tower returned to the form we recognize today. If I remember correctly, the Statue of Liberty was 1/16 of the original size, so it was still quite large, but not as big as the original one placed in New York. So next I'm going to present the brief history of King Ly Thái Tổ and what is his contribution to our country. So Ly Thái Tổ was born Lý Công Uẩn in 1974 and became emperor in 1009. He became one of the most important dynasty in Vietnam history. So one of his great contribution is to move the capital from Hoa Lư to Thăng Long, which is Hanoi today. He also strengthened central government, support Buddhism, encourage agriculture, and create general political stability. So you see Hanoi today, you can trace its history back to the Chiếu Rời Đô of Lý Thái Tổ from 1010. Where and when does he relocate or transfer the capital? When and why does he relocate the capital? So Ly Thái Tổ relocate the capital in 1010. The previous capital, Hoa Lư, was in a mountainous area, excellent for defense, but also not ideal for long-term expansion and prosperity. So Ly Thái Tổ chose Đại La, which is Hanoi today, and rename it to Thăng Long, meaning flying dragon. The legend famously told that when Ly Thái Tổ arrived at Đại La, he saw a dragon rising into the sky. So yeah. Question: what is the meaning of the name Thăng Long Hanoi in Vietnam? This is a brief section. So Thăng Long meaning ascending dragon or flying dragon. Hanoi meaning within rivers. What rivers? There are the Red Rivers, and when you look at the map, there are several rivers, smaller one, surrounding Hanoi. And Vietnam, what is the meaning of Vietnam? Vietnam meaning the people in the south. Nam is south, and Viet is the name of our people, Viet people. So it can be understood largely as the southern land of Vietnam. Question: when and why was the name Thăng Long changed to Hanoi? So Thăng Long was changed to Hanoi in 1831 under the Minh Mạng Emperor of Nguyễn Dynasty. So By this time, the Nguyễn dynasty have the imperial capital in Huế, so Thăng Long was not a capital city anymore. So Minh Mạng changed the city to Hà Nội, and that represent an administrative reform. And yeah, Thăng Long was not a emperor citadel anymore, it was just a citadel. But today Thăng Long is still a very powerful historical name, and people of Vietnam usually use Thăng Long when they talk about the ancient history and culture of Hanoi. Next, I'm going to present information about Ngọc Sơn Temple, Xe Húc Bridge, and the Penn Tower. Let's look at each of them. So Ngọc Sơn Temple stands on Jade Island in the northern part of Hoàn Kiếm Lake. The temple was built in the 19th century with a major rebuilding and renovation in 1865 by scholar Nguyễn Siêu. The temple is built by Trần Hưng Đạo, a Vietnamese general who led Vietnam forces against the Mongol invasions. So the temple is interesting because it brings together two Vietnamese ideals: the people who protect the country and the people who pursue knowledge. To reach the temple, we must cross the Xe Húc Bridge. Xe Húc meaning beautiful rays of the morning sun. It is built with a red color. It connects the mainland to the Jade Island and acts almost as a transition from the original city life into the sacred temple life. Before reaching the bridge, we can see the Penn Tower, or Tháp Bút in Vietnamese. Penn Tower was constructed by Nguyễn Siêu with his 1865 renovation. It was made of stone and has the shape of a riding bush pointing towards the sky. On the tower are three Chinese characters, Tả Thanh Thiên, or translated to writing on the blue sky. Nearby is Đài Nghiêng. The ink slab is supported by three forks or toads. It is a monument to learning. Next, I'm going to present the significance of the four holy creatures: the dragon, unicorn, turtle, and phoenix. The first one is dragon, or long. The dragon represents power, prosperity, royalty, and natural forces. In Vietnam, the dragon is very important because it was so during the legend of Lạc Long Quân and Ogre, we originally described ourselves as the descendant of a dragon lord and a fairy queen. Next is the unicorn. The Vietnam unicorn is benevolent and auspicious creature. It is associated with peace, prosperity, good fortune, and good governance. It is why we see lion or unicorn dances during Vietnam festivals and celebration. Next is the turtle. The turtle represents longevity, wisdom, stability, and endurance. At the heart of Hoàn Kiếm Lake, turtle has a powerful meaning because of its connection to the legend Golden Turtle and the Secret Sword legend. Finally, we have the phoenix. The phoenix represents beauty, virtue, harmony, and prosperity. Traditionally, dragon and phoenix were also associated with emperors and empress. So today, the four creatures represent power, peace, wisdom, and prosperity, everything that Vietnamese people hold very dearly. Next, I'm going to contrast between the word pagoda and temple. So, a pagoda is primarily associated with Buddhism. It is a place to worship Buddha mostly, and a temple is generally dedicated to historical figure like hero, ancestor, or deity. That conclude the story and the presentation today. So I hope you have a good time listening till the end of this, if you listen to the end of this at all. And it is quite a long video, I know, but because it takes time for me to explain all of the interesting and intricate details of these stories and legends. So thank you for listening and watching. Thank you.